So as I was mentioning just moments ago, is we're going to take a journey through the Mishkan, but not necessarily the entirety of the Mishkan, but through one of the areas we did not cover before, and it had to do with the altar of incense. The altar of incense was such a high deal. It was a big deal. That structure, that performance of the altar of incense was a big deal. So we can grab everything and throw it to the side and shoot straight towards the things of the Mashiach, which we're supposed to pursue the things of the Mashiach. But there's so much we can learn in regards to the Mishkan. I'm not even talking about the temple. I'm talking about the tabernacle in the wilderness is where those things actually began as a reflection of the Garden of Eden. So we're going to wind up looking at these things. So I have a subtitle, but we're going to jump to another, if I can say, title of what we're going to be looking at amongst all the details. So hopefully you guys, your spirits are ready, your minds are ready as we journey through this. So the subtitle, as you see up on the screen, is Journey Through the Incense and Just a Touch from the Fiery Coal. So I'm going to get my scriptures. I want to go to the book of Isaiah. Yeshayahu, for those of you that will not speak any other language other than Hebrew. The book of Isaiah, Yeshayahu, chapter 6. And I'm going to read from verse 5. Then said I, this is the prophet Isaiah. He's having an amazing revelation of the Creator. And the revelation that he's having is he's having a visual of the temple, of some temple that is filled with the train or a specific garment of the Creator that's filling the entire temple that has revelation of itself. So I just want to read, because this whole chapter is so powerful. I just want to read a couple verses beginning in verse 5. Then said I, woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. Talk about being amongst the right company and being honest, right? For my eyes have seen the King. We can pull from this one verse and safely say this. If we were to see the King right now, in our position and state that we're in right now, we would probably say the same thing and more. We are a people of unclean lips. If we were to see and have that revelation of the Creator, we wouldn't be able to comprehend it. It would frighten us to death. And maybe for some, maybe even kill some at just that manifestation. He's seen the Creator. But I want to make this point. Verse 6. Then flew one of the seraphim unto me, having a live coal in his hands. I couldn't even begin to try to expound on what it means to have a live coal. It's not like an ember from a barbecue grill or an ember from a fire pit that we enjoy on the weekend or during Sukkot. This is totally different. This is being brought out from the altar in the heavens. And the scripture of Isaiah is actually stating that this coal was a living coal. This coal was alive. It wasn't just burning. It had a life of its own. I try to imagine that. A coal with a life of its own with Isaiah's name written all over it. This was for him. This coal was designed for Isaiah. So it says this, Then flew one of the seraphims unto me, having a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with the tongs from off the altar. And he laid it upon my mouth and said, Lo, this has touched your lips, and your iniquity is taken away, and your sin is purged. So I think that is very, very powerful because of what we're about to go into today. The incense altar is a powerful revelation, and it is called in Hebrew, Mizbeach HaKetoret. Say that. Mizbeach HaKetoret. The altar, not a altar, the altar of incense. The altar of incense. We're going to look at a bunch of aspects pertaining to this. So it's probably going to be educational, but I also at the same time pray that the Father's Ruach will deliver exactly what we need delivered into our minds and our lives today. And I want to ask the question, how many people pray every single day? You could raise your hand, you don't have to. Those of you that are watching, how many of you pray and then maybe you miss a beat? You don't pray. Prayer is something we need to become.
Yeah.
Ani tefillah, the psalmist says in Psalm 109, I think it is, right? 109 is Ani tefillah towards the end. The King James butchers it pretty nicely. It says, and I will give myself to prayer, because they're trying to comprehend how does an individual, how does a man or a woman become prayer? Because that's what the verse is saying in Hebrew. Ani tefillah, I am prayer. We have to become prayer, and we can't stop talking about prayer enough. This is the very thing, out of all the things the disciples, we mentioned this before, out of all the things the disciples asked the Mashiach to teach them, they didn't ask the Messiah, you know what, teach us how to walk on water. They didn't ask the Mashiach, teach us how to heal the sick, teach us how to raise the dead, teach us how to open up blind eyes, teach us how to open up the deaf ears. One of the reasons probably for that is because as disciples, if they were to be taught how to do that and have that activated like nothing else, where they were at that time, they probably would have created self-worship. Right. Because they knew. So they were actually not asking those things, so they matured to a greater level than just a Talmudim, a disciple. Out of all the things the disciples asked the Mashiach to teach them, out of all the things, they said, teach us how to pray. Why would he do? Why would they ask out of all the things? And the Mashiach did, according to the scriptures in the book of John, it says he did so many miracles and so many other things that he did, there wouldn't be enough libraries to jot down all the things he did. So they saw him do a lot of things. Yeah. But the one thing they saw him do more than anything else was what? Pray. Prayer is something that is missing in its full totality amongst the Messianics, the Hebrew roots, and you name it that are out there. There's a lot of structured and disciplined avenues of prayer, like the Siddur. I don't knock the Siddur. It's powerful the way it's put up. But unless we grab a hold of a tool in regards to prayer, tefillah, and unless we grab a hold of that and make it something real in our life, then all we're doing is mechanics. Right. And mechanics, I don't recall any verse anywhere or any up-to-date venue of something where his spirit is dwelling in a robot. Mm-hmm. His spirit, his ruach, is dwelling inside of the sons and daughters of Israel. Mm-hmm. Inside living souls, inside tabernacles. Each one of you is a tabernacle here. Mm-hmm. So as you see, as I have up on the screen right here, the altar of incense, and those are the verses that you can see the details pertaining to that. And this is Yahuwah's dwelling place, the Mishkan. It wasn't the intent, but it was an act of mercy. That was an act of mercy. His divine interference in the power of focused prayer. I'm going to tell you, the Father has been ministering to me on focused prayer. I don't know about you guys, but focused prayer is powerful, as opposed to just praying out of desperation or just throwing words out there because you're trying to fill in some time. But when you have a focused prayer, something that is focused, it's like a laser beam. That is effective and powerful, and that's where the Father wants His people to be. So let's talk about this. As I said, this is a branch off of the teaching from the Mishkan. But I want to look at some basic things pertaining to the altar of incense. The altar of incense represents three major things amongst many other things. It also speaks of prophecy, which we're not going to really get into a lot of prophecy. But it speaks of three major things. The way of prayer. It speaks of worship, and it speaks of intercession. The gold altar of incense teaches us of prayer, period, mainly. Only the priests whose hearts were pure would be able to minister before the veil where the altar of incense was at. If you read in the book of Psalms, and we're going to wind up reading other verses in this psalm, we're going to wind up reading. This psalm teaches us and tells us if we inhabit iniquity in our heart, you can read it for yourself. If there is iniquity, what is iniquity? Right out rebellion. Iniquity is namas in Greek. Iniquity, avon in Hebrew, deals with right out, full out rebellion. Knowing that we should be doing something and we don't do it, or knowing that we shouldn't do something and we're going to do it anyways in our heart. That's where everything begins. The Mashiach took the Torah to a totally different level. Yeah. Some might say he took the Torah to a way high up level. No, he didn't.